Michigan Family Wellness, episode 29.
Here at Michigan Family Wellness, we believe chiropractic care and nutritional-based therapies are a foundational part of a healthy family lifestyle. No matter where you're at in the mitten, having a family is such an exciting time of life. So instead of feeling overwhelmed by stress, fatigue, and responsibilities for the kids, we invite you to become part of this empowering community to create happy, healthy families. By providing engaging interviews and practical applications, Dr. Wollner cultivates family health by equipping our listeners with the tools they need to elevate wellness in their own family. Dr. Wollner passionately serves the Michigan community at his chiropractic and nutrition-based practice, where he specializes in pregnancy, pediatrics, and family wellness care. And now, here's your host, Dr. Kyle Wollner.
Good day, Michigan families, and welcome to another empowering episode of Michigan Family Wellness. My name is Dr. Kyle, and I am the Family Wellness Chiropractor at the Michigan Family Wellness Clinic, and your host on today's podcast. I'm excited because today we have a very special interview, actually part 2 with Dr. Robert Cass. But before we get to today's episode, the Michigan Family Wellness Clinic is all about equipping you and your family. We're family-centered here, and when you're the single parent or the stressed-out spouse just struggling to get through each day and take care of the kids and make sure the refrigerator has food and make sure the house is picked up, all while advancing your career and on and on and on, we're here for you. What I help most of my patients with is resiliency. And the way I define resiliency is giving you the strength to adapt to the stress in your life. Sometimes we do have stressors that need to go, whether they be something environmental or an abusive relationship or just the nutrient deficient food we eat. Other times the stress isn't necessarily going away, but the way our body is adapting to that stress is not sustainable. I help many of my patients, many of them mothers, fathers, children, young, old, sick, healthy, big, small, increase their resiliency and equip them with that strength to adapt to the changes and stress in their life. The saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, is absolutely true. And that's why I have committed this podcast and the MFW clinic to passionately serve this community through integrity, certainty, and authenticity. You deserve the best doctor-patient experience and the best results in the shortest amount of time. So if there was a way to elevate your health, your family wellness, and resiliency, would you be interested? If this message is resonating with you, or if you would like to start a dialogue about your specific situation, head on over to MichiganFamilyWellness.com and you can send me an email, schedule a complimentary phone consultation, or head on over to the MFW Facebook page and send me a Facebook message. All right, families, so here's the deal. This is part 2 of the value-packed interview with Dr. Cass. If you missed part 1, I encourage you to visit MichiganFamilyWellness.com and catch that first half of the interview, which will give you the proper context for today's discussion on the benefits and value of homeopathic medicine for family wellness. And before we jump into today's interview, the MFW podcast has the opportunity to receive some feedback and collect some information from our listenership. So I've actually included a link in the show notes here to an online survey. You can also navigate to survey.libsyn.com/Michigan Family Wellness. If you guys could do me a huge favor and please take the 10 seconds, I promise that's all it takes, to fill out the online survey. This information will greatly help the MFW podcast grow, adjust, and stay most relevant to the needs, to your context, and provide the most value to you and your family. All right, families, let's jump into today's interview. Going back to, so another framework here for you. In the same way that people recommend, working with their local farmers so that they know where their beef is from or where their chicken is from, and they know it's, grass-fed, organic, all of that, and they know where the source is, okay? So I liken that to using, conceptually, of course, to using the homeopathics from Physica, because here's the thing. You're listening to families, you're listening to the formulator, the creator of this entire line. So the great thing is if I have a question, all I have to do is, send an email or call up, Dr. Cass here and say, hey, what's going on with this? Have you ever seen this before?
Yeah,
and that
right.
kind of relationship, that kind of trust is why I'm so loyal to this kind of physical medicine, this kind of physical healing. So another question here for you, Doc. On a lot of supplements, you can look at the ingredients and let's say it's a whole food supplement and it says, all right, this supplement has buckwheat or this supplement has beetroot, and that's kind of, you can understand that, okay? And they can list their, amounts and all of that. But I guess help families understand, help even other healthcare practitioners who might be listening understand, what does it mean when it says on some of the physical supplements, adrenal at a 5X or mesenchyme at a 6X, 9X, 6CH? Like, what does that mean? Can you explain that?
Yeah, I sure can. The X's or the C's or the N's that you see on some of the remedies relate to the potency of the ingredient. So, for example, when you take an ingredient, and I'm going to talk about where I get my ingredients from as well, so don't let me forget that.
Right.
Because that'll help everybody understand. The potency of a particular ingredient needs to be resonating at the right frequency to actually work with the patient.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's why you need to be working with the doctor, somebody who understands these things. You can't just go out on the internet or somewhere and say, oh, I'm going to take this and make it up. No, you have to work with a doctor who has an understanding of these things so that he can find the right potency. We call this the right remedy or the right potency at the right level, at the right frequency, and in the right sequence, the right timing, the right sequence. This is so important because if you can get those matching up with what's going on in the patient, it looks like a miracle that happens. It's not a miracle. It's just the design of life. You can call it science. You can call it magic, whatever you like. But the darn thing, it works when you actually find the right system, the right remedy, the right level, the right time, and in the right sequence. And this is so important. That's what these potencies mean. Now, if I can just drop back here for a second, because you make a good point that you and I are colleagues and friends. Absolutely. And in our work together, if you have a question, you need to be able to call somebody who can answer that question, who's not just a salesperson or someone who's just read something somewhere about something. You need to talk to the people who are actually putting these things together. So you can call me and I will answer you. We will find out what we need to do exactly for this patient if we need to talk that way. Similarly, I have farmers and people throughout the world who grow these beautiful natural ingredients out from which I take my homeopathics and my botanicals and many of my nutritionals. And the way these guys grow these ingredients, these plants and these substances is so wonderful.
Yes.
The soil is beautifully prepared. In other words, I don't buy things on the open market. I buy them directly from the farmer there. And over the last 45 years, which I've been doing this, I've met a lot of amazing people. And most of these farmers that work together have small family businesses. My business is a family business. I love that idea. So that you can call up me and I can call up these guys and we're all together in this. And the name of the game is to fix these people, to get them better in a way which will do no harm and won't make a mess of things so that, 10 years down the road, they wonder, where did this come from? How do we get so messed up? Well, it's because the right potency wasn't put in there into the homeopathic. So just remember this.
Yes.
The right remedy at the right time, at the right level, and in the right sequence. And then things begin to happen.
Absolutely. And just to kind of dovetail off that thought, going back to your point of, working with a doctor, working with someone who really understands what they're doing, you can really send yourself into a healing crisis, or you can give yourself a miasm or something, if you take the wrong remedy or the wrong medicine at the wrong time. It's like, why would you do chemotherapy and radiation if you don't have cancer? Like that's going to be harmful for you. So
that's right.
Yeah. What I'm saying is it's like, if you don't need to take something, then you shouldn't take it. So again, that's why working with a doctor that has some sort of objective method of testing, not just, let's just try this and, whatever works. Now, again, back to the sourcing, so a lot of people look for like non-GMO, organic labeling, all of that. I know that everything is approved by Health Canada, but can you tell us more about the sourcing? Like when it says adrenal or when it says pituitary or thyroid, can you tell us more about that?
Right. Well, those are what we call in homeopathy SAR codes.
Right.
Big name. And a SAR code just means a healthy organ or a healthy tissue. Now, not to be confused with glandulars, which you can find like in one of my nutritional remedies called Adrenal Life Force, which has adrenal glandule, the actual adrenal gland in there. There's no bovine spongiform encephalitis, BSE, all those diseases that you hear. None of that. That's perfectly clean. No hormone in that. The adrenal life force is in there, which helps people with their adrenal glands, with the pituitary glands, and with the thyroid gland. It's a wonderful remedy for our time. But that's an actual glandular substance. An adrenal SAR code, for example, remember SAR code means a healthy organ or a healthy tissue, is a homeopathic version or a homeopathic preparation of that adrenal glandular. And so you'll find adrenal 5X, as we were talking about before. It's an adrenal homeopathic, which is known as a SAR code, which has a resonance frequency of 5X.
Right.
That's a particular dilution or potentization to work with that patient to help them from the standpoint of bioresonance for their adrenal glands and their high endocrine glands to work beautifully there.
Right. Now, again, that would even be considered a vegetarian or a vegan preparation. Is that right? Because it's not the gland itself, like it's not animal tissue. It's the secretions, or it's from that healthy gland.
Well, it kind of depends on where we're going with this.
Sure.
For example, if people are vegans for, in quotation marks, spiritual reasons, the adrenal SAR code would not be considered a vegan remedy.
Okay.
And it's not vegetarian. It depends upon where the person's consciousness, of mind or heart are being directed. So because the SAR code originally came from an adrenal gland. So the source of that homeopathic SAR code is from actually an adrenal gland. But because of the dilution principles, there's nothing of the original adrenal gland in that ingredient, with the exception of the signature or the oscillation or the vibration, some people might say, of that adrenal gland. So to call that a vegan remedy depends upon what a person's definition of vegan might be.
It depends on that.
Yeah. And where they're coming from with that. That's such a good point. There's so much misinformation out there since we have that great oracle Google. People are writing about this and that and the other thing, etc. And they're talking about, for example, as we began our conversation about homeopathic vaccination or homeopathic immunization, etc., which is a false. Those are not true. That's completely untrue. The word which is used to describe it, which is accurately, is called homeoprophylaxis. Homeoprophylaxis means safety of the same thing. And that's what it relates to, the ability of the particular homeopathic at the right potency, like 5X as you were describing it, to go after the signature of the vaccine. As you know, vaccines are not just one thing. They're made up of a whole conglomerate of toxins, basically, poisons. That's what they are. It's a poison.
Right.
And so the potency of the remedy, the homeoprophylactic remedy, needs to be resonating at that frequency of those toxins, because cures to remove the toxic effect of them. That's how that works. And when you see this on the internet, in lots of books, and there's so much false information out there that you really do need to have a doctor who can actually discern this for you. Because this is what we do. I don't know about you, Doc, but I'm pretty sure it's true about you. We spend most of our lives researching and always wanting to get better and to understand what's going on more and more. And
absolutely,
that's our mandate, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you know what? most families, the people listening to this episode, this podcast, they just want to spend more time with their own families, and they want to contribute more to the world around them, and increase their performance at work. They really want to know that the person they're working with, that they trust that person to get to get them the results that they're looking for in the shortest amount of time with the most, cost-effective use of resources. Back to what you were saying about, the right potency. I love what you've written about, the balance between those SAR code potencies. I love what you've written about the 6CH potency, especially in adrenocode. I've used that personally, and I just want everyone to know as well, my family uses the physical remedies. Like, we completely embrace everything that we've talked about here so far on the podcast. And I just wanted to highlight that within homeopathic principles, as you've written about, Dr. Cass, the 4CH and the 5CH potencies are typically used for stimulatory effects, while the 7CH and the 9CH, there's these different potencies. And like we're saying, if you have the wrong potency, if you do these things at the wrong time, the wrong level, the wrong sequence, you're going to mess yourself up. And so that's why I love the 6CH SAR code potency, because that really balances, nourishes, repairs, rather than, pushing it one way or another.
This is such an important point that you're bringing up here, Doc. The founder, the great father of homeopathy, Hahnemann, who some of your listeners might have read about or heard about, he was one of these brilliant kind of men who come along, and women who come along, of course, too, from time to time, and to reset things. And his one of the things that he had to say, which was so brilliant amongst many things, was at first do no harm. Right? Mm-hmm. That was his idea of things. But he also talked about the fact that the homeopathic remedy in and of itself really doesn't do what the medical community would like it to do. The homeopathic remedy, the right time, the right level, the right sequence, as you and I were describing it there, it does one thing, and one thing so beautifully. It does it so perfectly. And that is, it removes obstacles to cure. Mm-hmm. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? Yes. Now, in our medical misinformed world, which we're bombarded with on television all the time, you watch TV, and when you come to commercial, most of those commercials are about drugs.
Right.
And all the contraindications and so forth, all this. When you're working with a homeopathic remedy, you find the right remedy, the right time, the right level, and the right sequence, and it does the job. It removes the obstacle to cure, so that the vital force, the natural healing power, which is present in the person, is what gets the job done. No remedies, no adjustments, no surgeries, nothing that we've done by doing something to somebody has actually cured them. What we've done, with the best of intentions to the best of our best of intentions, is remove the obstacles to cure, so that the natural life current, which is present in everyone and animates everything. Speaking about it sounds kind of new agey, doesn't it? But it isn't. Yeah. It's very scientific and very much to the point. And this is what heals people. Yeah. So I really wanted to bring that out here, because when we're working with these remedies, people will say, what do I use for this? If I have this condition, what do I use for this? And I'll say, I don't know. Let's talk. Let's Absolutely. Have a conversation and see where it is that you need to go. What potency does this require? Your body require? What drainage remedies does your body require? Is it right to do detoxification at this time? Are these nutritional remedies, nutritional medicines, exactly what your body needs? So it's not a guessing thing.
Right.
And I just wanted to, I'm sorry,
it's fine.
Put your quarter in, and I talk. That's what happens.
Or even just to pick up right where you left off, maybe you need to just do some, clean the slate. Maybe you have to do a complete, body reset, even before you're ready for that healing, or even before you're ready for chiropractic. And I just love what you were saying. It's so in line with, just the chiropractic philosophy. Yeah. It's not like anything I'm doing is directly causing that person to get better or to heal. It's just removing the interference, removing the obstacles to cure. So again, that's why I really just love working with Physica and this company, this family-based company, is because everything is just so in line. We can go on and talk about resonance and concordance, which can, go off into a whole nother direction. But that's where I really feel, these two avenues, these two channels really align well, is just with that approach in terms of natural alternatives and healing and restoration. Well, Dr. Cass, I do want to ask you about practical applications. So again, let's say we have some people listening today, we have some families, we might even have some healthcare practitioners who are listening. And what are, in terms of practical applications, where can you direct people to learn more about, everything homeopathy or everything related to Physica, or what can people start doing today, like in their own lives at home?
Well, I think if they want to learn about Physica, you have to go to a doctor who's using the remedies, because they're not sold over the counter and you can't buy them off the internet. They're specifically designed to work with docs who understand this particular process. Because as a grandfather, I have a great concern for my grandchildren, but not just my grandchildren, but for all the children. That's the whole point. We're not just looking after our little families. Our little families are designed to look after each other, but also designed to look after other families. And that's the key here. So to learn more about Physica, you can go on our website. On the front end, there's a professional side, which you have to be a licensed practitioner, certified healing arts practitioner, medical doctor, chiropractors, naturopaths, acupuncturists, dentists, and so on and so forth, to get into the back side of it. But the front side of it, you'd be welcome to take a look at. And the website is physicaenergetics.com. That's PHYSICA, Physica, and then energetics.com. And I think what people can do, and there's some information on there that might be helpful. I think what people can do is something that you actually introduced there, talking about having a clean slate, start in a way, not quite starting over again, because you really can't do that.
Right.
But at least cleaning up the slate. And I think this is probably one of the most important messages that I might be able to contribute to our conversation today, which might be helpful to your listeners too, Doc, is that I have a program that I work with called Restoring Cellular Communication Pathways. And when I was in practice, not so long ago, but patients would fly in from all over the world to work with me. And before they would work with me, I would say to them, I want you to get on this program first.
Yep.
And they would say, why? I'd say, well, it's going to take away the little aches and pains and the common things, the little things that just bug you, right? The little colds and little flus, and get your energy up and get your bowels working a little better and get your mind thinking a little more clear and get your feeling a little more stabilized and so on and so forth, get you rehydrated and all that, so that when they came to see me, we're ready to go right now. We don't have to spend time going over all these little things, taking care of this and taking care of that. And this little program, I kind of resisted doing it, to be straight up here with you, because in full transparency, as you described it, we all learn as we go along, right? And for the first 10, 20 years of my practice, I really didn't want to do that. I wanted to just go, oh, you came in and you got this condition, oh, let me fix it. Well, that worked to a certain degree, but the same patterns kept coming around over and over again. It was good job security if I was in it for the money, which obviously you can hear in my voice. I'm happy with the money, but that's I'm not going after it.
Yeah.
I want to do the right thing for the right reasons, and so I began putting people on the little program here, which was very, very simple. It took them 3 weeks to 6 weeks, something like that, depending upon how conscientious they were with it, and they just had to take a few little remedies now once or twice a day, and after a few days their energy would begin to be restored. They weren't pumped up.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, that's how it's supposed to be.
Right.
This feels better. And particularly with moms, and I'm talking to my beautiful warrior mothers out there.
Absolutely, the warrior women.
The warrior women, who are just, you're tired. It's hard being a mom. I mean, it's the best job on the planet. We all had amazing mothers, and God, I love you. I don't know if guys could do this, but we certainly love what you do and respect it. It's a lot of work, and you're tired, and you don't need to take pills to get you all pumped up. Nutritional pills, you might say, or things to pump your adrenals so that you feel so better, much better now. You need to find substances that will actually balance out the pattern, so that you're not hypering the hypos and hypoing the hypers. That makes sense. So you're not pumping people up.
Yeah.
You're finding a place of balance.
Yeah.
And once you're in a place of balance, then the body begins to heal. And that's what the little program does. And that would be something I would suggest that people just take a look at. If you go on the website, look for Restoring Cellular Communication Pathways.
Yeah.
And you can see the program outlined there. And there's some dietary factors which can be helpful. So you eat in a non-stressful way. Just do it for a few weeks, and you'll find that things do change. You're not going to feel like you're climbing up, heading for the moon. You can tear down wild beasts with your mouth. You're not going to do that, but you're going to feel normal.
Yep.
You're going to feel like you again,
yep.
Which is a great blessing to yourself personally and your family, and to my family, because if your family's doing that and my family's doing that, at least we got something wrong.
Exactly. And just to use another analogy with the restoring cellular communication pathways, I kind of use like a sports analogy or a training analogy. If you're going to compete or perform athletically at a high level, you have to do your basic fundamentals. You have to go to spring training. You have to do that foundational work.
That's right.
And I always like to say that success is neither magical nor mysterious. Success is the consistent application of the basic fundamentals. So especially for those really tough cases with people, or those, you've tried everything, or you've been to every specialist, in your area, if you haven't done this kind of work, where the cells actually have to communicate with one another electrically, with neurotransmitters, doing this foundational work really can be such a critical and imperative component before you even start, opening the case and doing the specific causal chain work. You have to really establish a foundation with the cellular communication pathways from the get-go. So I'm glad you brought up that point, Doc, and I'm glad
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but what we're talking about here now, Doc?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about moving beyond flat world medicine.
That's right.
Flat world medicine has never been helpful, but it's taken on different formats, and it's taken on different imagery as time has gone on through history. It's been this way, it's been this way, it's been that way, and so on and so forth. And people have sort of gotten better, but people aren't getting better in it insofar as our world is concerned. And as we started out, that 75% of our genes are epigenetics. In other words, these are diseases of civilization. We're not doing great here because our approach has been flat world. We're only seeing the world as flat. We see one another as flat. We see situations as flat, and so on and so forth. What we're talking about today, and this is the reason I made my medicines, and I know this is the reason you became a doc in the first place, is because flat world views no longer fit if they ever did, and something else needs to change along with that.
Well, Dr. Cass, we're coming up on the kind of time limit that we have here for today. Is there anything else, any other message that you want people listening or the families listening today to really take home as a result of, hearing your message on today's podcast? Any words of affirmation or insights or advice or anything like that?
Yeah. You were not designed to be sick. You were not designed to be unhealthy in body and mind and heart. You were designed to be a revelation of the life force which is inherent in all living things. And as the life force moves through you in body and mind and heart, you will feel joy, great joy and fulfillment in your life. So this is what I wish for all of you. And Doc, thank you so much. I love what you do in your service, and the people who come to you are blessed to be with you.
Powerful words there, Dr. Cass. Thanks so much. And, if you're listening to this, families, and you're resonating with this message from Dr. Cass and myself here, if you feel like you've experienced some of the things that we've talked about and shared today, I want to highly encourage you to head on over to MichiganFamilyWellness.com and schedule a complimentary phone consultation where we can begin a dialogue on how to best approach elevating your health and wellness. And remember, we'll have a dedicated webpage with all of the show notes that we've mentioned here at MichiganFamilyWellness.com. We'll have links to the physical website. We'll have links to where you can learn more about Dr. Cass and Physica. And also, if you're listening on your mobile device, you can actually expand those show notes right on your mobile device there. And you can take advantage of those clickable links right now. Dr. Cass, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thanks, Dr. Wallner. It's been a privilege and a pleasure.
And remember, we can do far more together than we could ever do apart. Coming to you from beautiful Southeast Michigan, I'm your host, Dr. Kyle, and this is Michigan Family Wellness.
Now that you've been equipped with the latest in family wellness solutions, we want to encourage you to apply these strategies right away. But the thing is, there's still so much to learn. Connect with Dr. Wallner's Chiropractic and Nutrition Office by going to MichiganFamilyWellness.com and click the newsletter sign-up button to join the informative and supportive community of chiropractic wellness. You will also receive as a gift from Dr. Wallner a copy of Michigan Family Wellness Solutions, an invaluable resource containing dynamic tools to elevate family health and vitality. Michigan Family Wellness wants to thank you for being part of today's podcast. Please subscribe to our podcast on iTunes and give us a 5-star rating and review.